Good afternoon. I'm Ida Chama, coming from National Food and Nutrition Commission, where I work as acting head of Nutrition Education and Communication Unit. Today we are going to talk about the complementary feeding, of course, in addition to breastfeeding. So complementary feeding, it's the foods that we give to the baby after 6 months. When the baby attains the age of 6 months, other foods now can be introduced to the baby. So the foods that we are giving to the baby at 6 completed months, and we call them complementary foods. So the question may arise to say, why are you giving the food? All along you've been talking about exclusive breastfeeding up to 6 months, no food. We all know that at 6 months now the breast milk that is given to the baby does not actually match with the growth and development of the baby. So that gap which is there for the milk actually to sustain the growth and development of the baby has to be filled in with the other foods that we are getting now from the family foods. Of course, when you start the food, this is also key. We need to look at the consistency. This baby has been suckling milk, so at this point, we need now to give the liquid foods like porridge. Anything that you're going to give to the baby at this stage, you need to mash them and make the consistency good enough for the baby to swallow. So thick and good enough for the baby to swallow. For instance, at 6 months, you can prepare porridge out of cassava meal, and then you can even add other milks. Like maybe if you have any milk from a cow, any milk, at 6 months you add to that porridge, and you can feed that porridge to the baby. And again, there are certain foods, like if you want to give a fruit, we talk of a guava. If you want to give a guava to the baby who is 6+ months, then you need to mash the guava, add water in it, and then sieve it so that the baby will just drink the juice that you are extracting from the guava, which is quite rich. So a lot of food that the baby is going to eat at this age, from 6 to about 8 months, it has to be in liquid or semi-liquid form, so that the baby now starts training. It's a training. You are training this baby how to eat. And thereafter, of course, 9 going up, maybe to 1 year, you start now the semi-solid foods, where you can try probably something thicker. We do have, maybe you mash foods like beans. You'll find that when you mash beans, it will have even a bit of the husks that cover the beans, and make it like a porridge and give it to the baby. And of course, our normal shima in Zambia, our staple food in all parts of the country is in shima. I was happy to eat the shima from Western Province, which was made out of rice. It was quite tasty. I loved the shima, it was so good. So if that's your staple, the baby at 8 to a year, the baby can eat that. Of course, it has to be dipped in soup, not the soup that we call soup. It's the soup that is made rich. The soup that we call soup, actually it's sauce. So we really have to mash. If we are eating fish, mash the fish and put the sauce, which we call soup, in there and give it to the baby. Don't just give the sauce to the baby, but you have to mash the fish itself, then add. These are some of the examples that can be given as semi-solid foods, so solid foods at the age of 8 to 12. As we go above 1 year, then the baby can easily enjoy the foods that the family is also eating. So I've just talked about complementary foods in terms of the frequency. Then we should also, the consistency, we should also look at the frequency. So how often do you feed that baby? Of course, you start maybe by twice in a day, then you progress to 3 times in addition to breast milk. Thereafter, again, you can talk of also again looking at a variety of foods being mixed. It is very worrying that most of our parents, we are not saying working parents, we are just saying breastfeeding parents. Only few people, it's about 70% of the Zambian parents who are breastfeeding, which is quite low, who are exclusive breastfeeding. We want the majority of the Zambians to start breastfeeding. Immediately you have the baby, please breastfeed. Breastfeeding or breast milk is the best food for the baby. So at this point, we are encouraging all of you and enjoy this week. It's a breastfeeding week. Let's celebrate together. We know that we enabling breastfeeding, we are making a difference for a working parent. So let's work together and support fathers inclusive, grandmothers, grandfathers. Please, let's all be on board to support breastfeeding. Thank you.
Well, you are watching the Lunchtime Cafe, and we were on the Nutrition Corner there. That's our first segment after the news, and we were looking at how for us to be having those good diets, how to take care of our nutritional issues. And I hope you did manage to get that update from the National Food Nutrition Commission. Interesting enough, on the Lunchtime Cafe, we proceed further to just look at now the next segment, which is the Emerging Stories segment. Stay tuned as we usher you into the Emerging Stories segment. Thank you for staying with us on the Lunchtime Cafe. We go straight into the emerging stories, and we look at a story where the Chipata City Council has called on the central government to consider supporting the local authority in transforming the road network in the district that last saw facelift 15 years ago. Chipata City Council Mayor George Mwanza says a stretch of about 41 kilometers in the city is extremely unmovable. Hence, it is as called on the central government to consider supporting the local authority in working on the damaged roads. Meanwhile, Minister of Information and Media Director spokesperson Tabo Kawana has assured the city mayor that the 2024 national budget will cater for the Chipata Vubi Road, Katete, Chanida Road, while township roads will be done under the public-private partnership model, and works are expected to begin soon. So let's have a look at that story.
And just to appreciate Mr. Kawana representing the government for taking interest so that we could go around to check the status of Chipata City urban and township roads. So as I said earlier, that we have over 41 kilometers of previously bituminous roads in Chipata that were lastly done 15 years ago by former President Rupiaban. And for 15 years they have since been worn out completely. About a stretch of over 41 kilometers in the city is extremely unmotorable. And these were roads that were properly done. They were bituminous and they were passable, and they raised the value of the city. So now, from where we are, the roads have been worn out completely. They are now unmotorable, and we are calling upon the central government to really consider supporting us.
But now that your President Hakainde Hichilema, has managed to go and convince the people that we owe money to give us a chance in order for us to rediscover or reconfigure our economy and have a bit of resources, we are now able to pump those resources into some of the things like capital projects such as roads. So I am a bearer of that good news from the Minister of Infrastructure that the roads will be done.
Yeah!
There you have it. That's a story that we were looking at pertaining to the Chipata City Council, who are lobbying for road works in the area, and this is among the stories that we're likely to have in our 1930 menus. And moving on the emerging stories segment, we also pick on a story where climate change activist Abel Musumali has implored the government to expedite the enactment of the climate change bill. Mr. Musumali regrets that the country does not have a climate change bill to govern the sector. So let's get a look at this other story.
Just to, to implore government that the climate change bill, I think it's time that it should be taken to Parliament for debate and the enactment, because once it is enacted, then it will become law. Currently, as we speak, Zambia doesn't have, a legal framework that should govern climate change issues. We have policies, yes, climate change policy, we have environment policies, we have, but a policy in itself is not enough. We need an act of parliament, we need law to be established. So we are behind schedule, and we expect that very soon that should be taken to parliament, so that issues of climate change are dealt with, beyond what is happening right now. And also the media have got a huge role to play in these issues of creating awareness on issues of climate change and the environmental sustainability. So climate change has now become, the issues of human rights now in these issues of climate change. There's what we call climate justice. So even legal bodies out there should take these issues of climate change with serious concern, because issues of climate justice is something that which we are advocating for, to say climate justice should begin to be respected, so that those people that are affected are able to be helped, to start a new life, in this case.
There you have it. That's a story where Mr. Abel Musumali, who is a climate change activist, he is talking about issues bordering on climate change, and is emphasizing the need for the government to expedite the process of enacting the climate change bill that is pending, and is hopeful that it will be tabled in the next session of Parliament. As you already know, that Parliament was adjourned last week on Friday, and we are going to have another session after this break, and is optimistic that by then the bill will be among those that are likely to be tabled and enacted, because climate change is a serious issue in Zambia, and it is important that we tend to look at that important issue. So now let's get to look at another story on our Forgotten Stories segment, on our Emerging Stories segment rather, where we have the Zambia Revenue Authority. ZRA says it has reduced the income collected on rent from 10% under withholding tax to 4% tax payers whose annual income is 8,000 or less, and 12.5% for taxpayers whose annual income exceeds 8,000, which is collected under the rental income tax. Speaking to Camnet News at the ongoing agriculture and commercial show, Acting Assistant Director Customer Experience Chinyama Nyirenda says this will allow taxpayers to have relief and inject back some cash flow into their operations. So that's the ZRA there. We were talking to them at the showground. We have a crew that is covering various stories at the agriculture and commercial show. So let's get to listen to the story coming from the tax collectors.
Through and just come and have an understanding of what these tax incentives are all about. So what are we talking about? Remember, most of the businesses were hit with COVID disruption. So a lot of business were affected, and also not only that, there were no sales that were made in that period. So government, and through the Ministry of Finance and ZRA, did introduce what we call the tax amnesty. So tax amnesty, this was one of the incentives that we gave out to our dear taxpayers out there, for them to get some form of relief. So we were waiving penalties that were on people's accounts, and also just allowing you to pay the principal amount, and that will be it. So we are also excited to see about 14,000 applications were made in this period, and we are happy to see that these were processed and actually revenue was collected. The other incentive that is interesting for our viewers is that of rental income. If you know and remember very well that before 2023, rental income was charged at 10%. Not anymore. We have reduced it. It's now at 4%. So it's 4% of what you collect as a landlord. And previously, it was the landlord, the tenant, who was supposed to collect that rental tax. Now it has moved to the landlord. So landlords, you are only supposed to collect 10% of the amount that you are getting. But on top of that, government has also reduced the rental amount you are supposed to pay. So if you are receiving rent with 1,000 every month, it means in essence you are not supposed to pay any tax. Okay, so those are the incentives that we are talking about. So any amount that is below 12,000 per annum will be taxed at 0. Then the rest is what we tax at 4%. So those are the incentives that we are talking about. The other incentive is for small businesses. These are businesses that are registered under turnover tax. Okay, so again, income tax is for businesses that are registered for.
So there you have it. That was some of the emerging stories that we were looking at that are happening as our reporters are covering stories unfold in the field, and we continue to bring you the updates, and some of the stories are likely to make it in the 1930 main news, but in an in-depth perspective where we get to work on the stories comprehensively. And so those are some of the stories that are on the the emerging stories session, and we have to move to our next session, which is the Forgotten Stories segment. But first we will take a short break, and we'll be back shortly with the Forgotten Stories segment. Keep it on Camnet TV.
the 95th Agriculture and Commercial Show, Camnet TV will be carrying out stand coverages for those exhibiting at this important national event. The show will take place from the 2nd to the 7th of August 2023 and will run under the theme Inclusive Economic Transformation. Partner with us and reach out to show goers by booking space for live interviews and stand coverages by engaging our marketing department on 0961 404493 or 0966 811428. To make sure that we do not leave anyone behind, we have flexible rates for small and medium enterprises. To our dear viewers, those of you that won't make it to the showgrounds, we will bring the show to you. Camnet TV, not just another channel.
Welcome back. It is now that time when we get to remind each other where we are coming from in terms of news gathering and issues that used to happen in our country. And we start with 2020, where we saw the commissioning of the Kafue flyover bridge by former President Edgar Lungu. Stay tuned.
The flyover bridge situated on Kafue Road has been completed and commissioned by His Excellency the President Edgar Chagwa Lungu. The flyover bridge involves road rehabilitation, including widening. The president says reducing traffic on Kafue Road will be saving much time for road users.
Comes improvement in people's livelihoods. This is consistent with my government's desire of increasing productivity, which will positively impact the economy. I wish to remind the project team that even as we talk about the positive impact of the project, we must remain cognizant of the need to continuously safeguard the lives of motorists, cyclists, and pedestrians. I'm glad to note that all safety measures have been taken into consideration in this project.
His Excellency says government is committed to ensure lives of Zambian citizens are improved. Constance Mwemba reporting for Camnet TV News, Lusaka.
There you have it, the women doing what they used to do best in terms of political activities, dancing there for one former president, Edgar Lungu, and where is the PF choir? It's been a while. Interesting events in the political landscape there, reminding us where we are coming from, and these are the bridges that we saw being constructed, one in Kafue and one along the Kafue Road as you branch off towards Chawama constituency, the other one in at Long Acres, and the other one at Monali, and the other one at Arcades. Interesting enough, those bridges were fully commissioned, all of them, by 2021, and this was 2020 when we were looking at those bridges. Interesting enough. So now we're still on the Forgotten Stories segment. Let's have a look at this other story. Still in 2020, we had people expressing concern over the handling of the COVID-19 pandemic pertaining to issues of adhering to the COVID-19 guidelines that were issued by the health authorities back then. So let's get to listen to this story. And remember that you can still give us your feedback and your comments on the stories that we are looking at in the Forgotten Stories segment.
Some Zambians are saying the current government is not serious with the way it's handling the coronavirus. This has arisen from the segregation the country has witnessed with the manner in which COVID-19 is handled in Zambia. Public gatherings are taking place, markets and bus stations are filled up with no regard to maintaining a social distance or caring to mask up. August 3rd, the Republican President of Zambia, His Excellency Edgar Lungu, when commissioning the flyover bridge on Kafue Road, received a thunderous welcome from Patriotic Front supporters. While the country seems to be recording high numbers of COVID-19 on a daily basis with BIDs, it seems adherence to the health guidelines is something difficult for Zambians to do. However, the Minister of Health, Dr. Chilufya, says Zambians will see enhanced reinforced actions to ensure preventive measures are adhered to. The minister says the president has continued to advise citizens to ensure they follow health guidelines.
Authorities, when there is an appeal from the head of state, let us note that it is all in the interest of protecting public health. Adherence to these measures is imperative. You will see reinforced action out there in the public from authorized officers working with stakeholders from all various sectors to ensure compliance to the guidelines. This is to protect you and to protect those who are innocently resting and are being compliant but are being put at risk by the truant people who are breaking the law. So you will see enhanced enforcement, reinforced measures to ensure adherence to public health measures. Public health authorities that will be in the field during day and night will act in an uncompromising manner in order to protect the interests of the public in terms of their health. All these are provided for in the Public Health Act and the statutory instruments number 21 and 22 and 62, and compliance will be non-negotiable.
The minister also appealed to owners of business premises to act according to the law. Zambia in the last 24 hours has recorded 233 new cases of COVID-19 out of 1,820 tests done, with 1 death and 208 recoveries. Constance Mwemba reporting for Camnet TV News, Lusaka.
Well, there you have it. That's an interesting story there pertaining to the COVID-19 pandemic. That was also topic in the year 2020, also moving to part of 2021. It was also a topical issue, and it raised a lot of concern, especially prior to the general election that we were hosting on the 12th of August 2021. Now, let's have a look at other stories there. In 2021, we covered the story where we covered the burial procession of PF cadres who were killed due to political violence in Lusaka's Kanyama compound, an event that also saw the UPND being suspended from campaigning in Kanyama constituency there. Let's have a look at this story.
Two of the murdered Patriotic Front members by suspected members of the opposition United Party for National Development, Gift Kasongo and Davison Kabundi, have been put to rest in Lusaka. One of the victims, Davison Kabunda, has left behind 6 children, while the other has left behind a child. And speaking at the burial site, brother to one of the late Iltas Mulongo has appealed to Patriotic Front members not to avenge the death of his brother, but instead show love and compassion to members of the opposition.
Very painful. Ilokamba utatu very painful kamba utati mwana huyu afamonga nyama. Nzafuna kuti nitike appear okapena appeal when noso amene muli mpano ba PF mayuthi na bakulu onse osabwezera choipa pa choipa ayi. Yehova Mulungu amene azakubwezera azabwezera mwanzanga. Mukaipisa kufuna kumbwezera choipa mutalisowana ufunika kumulokera ili muzindikani mutasowana ulupafupi waina mutasowana ulukutali tuwaona gari kuti mulindi mdaliso ati uzamfikira
ti Dani Kasongo omleto kutira ti Chingangu asha abana abali 6, then 4 boys and 2 girls, then asha awakashi together with family. May God bless you. Kairi ndefwa ya twali rapona kulanda okutira ti Bible landa okutira ti revenge if makulires.
And Patriotic Front Secretary General Davis Mwila has clarified that the 2 victims were indeed party officials and has promised the family to the deceased that justice will be served in this matter.
We will ensure that Nangoba police but they have to do their job. Investigate this matter, ensure that this gentleman, they have to pay the price. Whoever did this, he has to pay the price. Bantu bambi tutemwafya abantu ngepo bali. Lidia bafa mwabutuka n'abashina abana. Us as a party, we want to make a commitment. Ababafa abana bakwata bakashina abana. So provincial chairman, I'm directing you that you see the family on Friday or Saturday. Let's see what we can do as a party.
While people have differences in opinions entitled to support a leader of their choice, killing a fellow human being in the name of politics should not be entertained in a Christian nation. Prudence Chota, reporting for Camnet TV News.
Well, there you have it. Those are some of the stories we are picking from the Forgotten Stories basket. And still in 2021, let's have a look at another story where we had a story where President Hakainde Hichilema, while in opposition, expressed a concern over the police operations prior to the August 12, 2021 general election. And we also played with a story back-to-back where we had the church expressing concern over the political violence, and the church was reacting based on the story that we have played earlier that saw 2 people dying as a result of political violence. Political violence was very eminent prior to the August 12, 2021 general election, and it still serves as a reminder as a country on the need to put in place measures to avoid electoral violence, because it tends to undermine the country's democracy. So let's have a look at these 2 stories. We'll be back on the other side.
Inspector General of Police Kanganja, it's Hakainde Hichilema again. I sent you a note just a few minutes ago to allow us to enter Nakonde. It's our right to enter Nakonde. We've committed no crime. May I ask you further, may I ask you further to stop firing at innocent, armless and harmless citizens. Please do stop firing these guns and tear gases at innocent people. There's nothing wrong we've done. There's no crime we've committed. You are interfering with the electoral process. Please, that's not the role of the police. The police is to keep peace and order. No one is causing violence, no one. We're campaigning in our own country. How do you see us, sir? As Gentiles or as monsters out of this world?
The murder of 2 citizens in Lusaka's Kanyama constituency is something that has left many citizens shocked. The 2 are believed to be PF members and allegedly killed by suspected UPND cadres. The incident led to the suspension of campaigns for the UPND in Kanyama. Christian Church's monitoring group chairperson, Father Emmanuel Chikoya, has implored the governing Patriotic Front and the United Party for National Development UPND to refrain from violence.
The strongest terms, the violence that has resulted in needless deaths that have caused untold misery to the immediate family members. According to the Bible, human life is sacred and care must be taken to preserve human lives at all times and by all means. Once again, we strongly urge all political party leaders, particularly those of the United Party for National Development and the Patriotic Front, to call their members to order, as well as refrain from engaging and spearheading ugly acts of political violence. It is time to own up and stop the blame game, as it will not result in peace.
Father Chikoya says youths must think of future generations before engaging in violence.
As the consequences of violence, such as the deaths of cadres, are more injurious to them and their respective families, who permanently bear the challenges of losing their breadwinners or having to deal with resultant disabilities, including medical expenses and potential even imprisonments and resultant court cases. We urge the youth to see beyond the short-term monetary gifts which are dangled in their faces and avoid selling their birthright for a pittance. There is still life after the euphoria of election campaigns.
Violence is detrimental to national development and it's the need to defeat it. Patrick Soko, Camnet News. Thank you for staying with us, our dear viewers, and those of you watching us via our social media platforms, being on YouTube as well as Facebook. We thank you for watching and following the program. Tell us where you are watching us from. We can get interacting on the program. And remember, we are still looking at the Forgotten Stories segment, and now we are going to go straight into another story where we look at a group of PF cadres that was calling itself Americans for Lungu had its leader arrested, and they were making a plea to President Lungu then to release him. So let's have a look at this story, and remember to keep it on Camnet TV. Songs of solidarity. They claim to be firm believers of President Edgar Lungu's leadership. They are people under the watch of detained self-proclaimed PF National Commander Innocent Kalimanshi. They call themselves Americans, and they have been making rounds on social media. And Wednesday, they escalated their activities by flocking to the Chawama football ground to demand for the release of their leader.
It is not a forcing matter, it is a request. President to papa tatuafukama tatuabombe kwabula Kalimanshi nabo bonsi abantu bobekete abali mu masales. Those are your votes which we have.
They accused some top party officials of dividing the party, a move they say may cost the PF votes in the forthcoming general election.
Ngakulia maminzi yonse oyo mwinga kwatanga kuti mwachita ande 2 posts musende USG na bu president pantu ba SG nshiremo na ineti mwabana bena nga mwali bana bena imibombere uturebomba kuno ba SG kalimanshi na abantu bonse abali 40 ngakale babafumia. Those 40 people who are in the cells today, me I'm not counting as 40 because they have got extended families. I'm counting 1,000 votes for you. Oyo twala alusa kuno kuchawama boss ni bedroom yenu ikasangweti MP tukwete wa UPND mukomfashani boss nganamu monati ba SG tabalebomba bombe ni amaposti yabiri constitution yesunga irasuminisha nganamu monati kamba tarebomba mufumiyani pa mumbike poine.
They have called on PF Chawama constituency parliamentary candidate to help unite the people in the area.
Tulomba kule mfresh westasila ikala panshi pishamo penso utontonga ipa mwana wikali manshi landana abantu abo abe mine kali manshi bekali panshi ifo tuli wakuchawama kuno twalisenda mavoters abengisa na bambi twale bafumye kuma garden house tule wasenda na basa yesa ngusenda mavoters kuno nokuchitale register pano pene bakavotora pachawama i program twali na okwebati inomba pa tombo kulasenda wala abantu abo abasenda mavoters kadibonze twali tunjane fitenge na ma t-shirt kwa atikosa ngwapera kuno kuchawama nomba i program wasanga babeka tasosa lifurungana so twapapa tunjane bakali manshi muri na 10 days tubombe na bale abantu besola twakasopeta ngatasila lunga twapapata
katabafumire lokwamba 18 hours tulia mu prayer and fasting and we want to make sure lesakwa Abraham, Isaac and Jacob ala twasuka Daniel ntwali mu kirindi chankala mu mulia alepa lesali mu asuka nkala mu shiyashonze shali tiro kumwikatamu mama Syrian Paulo lintubali mu prison ama followers babo na ma organization yonse bale pepa until bakwanisha filia Jericho yalipo na until 7 days lesayo abebero ko bachingulukeni Jericho ya 7 days yalapona and fyala chitika twala ma prayers abantu ndata bawafunye we going to fast and prayer twala door to door mu bantu ko batento ambyo kupepa tubike peresa panta united we stand.
Mr. Kalimanshi, who is currently in detention at the Woodlands police station, feels he's been wrongly accused by whom he termed as enemies of the party. He says he believes in bringing people together, adding that when he is released, his next assignment will be to reunite Kelvin Wariafube, also known as KBF, with the PF. Patrick Soko, Camnet News. Well, there you have it. That is what used to happen on this day. That's what happened on the 3rd of August 2021, and that was the story that we also covered in the Camnet menus, reminding you, our dear viewers, of what used to happen in this nation before we had the United Party for National Development Administration. The beauty about this segment is that it is a tool for accountability by reminding us where we are coming from and also following up with policymakers if at all we are making progress on some of these issues or not, if we are stagnant or not. So it is also incumbent upon ourselves as a country to always seek to achieve things that we set for ourselves to achieve. In this case, where one of the targets was about political violence, and we saw that during the previous election it was an issue. But what measures are we putting in place as a country to avoid electoral violence going forward pertaining to the elections that are coming here in this country? How can we avoid that? Because we saw that, for instance, during the by-elections that we have recorded of recently, of late, we saw that we had some episodes of violence, and that is not conducive for our democracy. And we have to make sure that we just find lasting solutions to such issues. And just now, we're going to go straight into our next segment, which is sports. Keep it on Camnet. Thank you. And right now we have talking about sport. We are still looking at the ongoing FIFA World Cup, and we have to just look at how it is standing. Remember that Morocco was playing, and we see how, if at all, they are going to progress. We saw that South Africa did us proud as a continent by progressing, joining Nigeria. And let's have a look at some of the matches that were played yesterday. We saw matches being played. The first matches we had Argentina up against Sweden. This match Sweden won by 2-0, and South Africa managed to beat Italy by 3-2. And we also had Panama up against France, and France were a better side, beating Panama by 6-3. And Jamaica were playing against Brazil, and these two teams are played to a new draw. And still in the group stages today, we are seeing that matches that are ongoing. We have Morocco up against Colombia, and this one, Morocco is leading this match, and it is in the 83 minutes. So if there you can see that Morocco is leading in this match. So if also on the other side we have Germany playing against let's say South Korea, and this one is also 1-0, and if it ends like that, then Morocco may progress to the round of 16, and these games are towards the end, and we can only anticipate that Morocco will manage to pull a surprise on this one by also making it to the round of 16. If we are going to have at least 3 African teams, that will be progressive, I think, on our part as a continent, and we can only wish the best to the teams that will be representing the continent in the name of Morocco, South Africa and Nigeria. For Morocco, it is not yet confirmed. We are still waiting for the results, so we will remain optimistic. But this is how things are standing in this group, where we have in Group H, where we have Morocco. We are seeing that it's quite a very tricky group, in that we are seeing that Colombia have 6 points, and Morocco have now 6 points because they are leading in the match that they are playing against Colombia there. Then we have Germany, who are playing against South Korea, and Germany is on 4 points and South Korea is on 1 point as things stand. So what it means is that if it ends like this, it means that Morocco will be able to progress to the round of 16, and together with Colombia, who are also tied on 6 points. So the other thing is if now Germany pulls a surprise and be able to win that match, then it is going to go to issues pertaining to, let's look at the goal difference and the likes, and that's where it will become very tricky. But for now, on the Lunchtime Cafe, this is where I have to leave you. I have been Patrick Soko, and I'll leave you with the segments on the Emerging Stories session. But remember that you will be talking business at the show, Agriculture and Commercial Show. We have a crew there, our marketing team that is engaging the exhibitors, and we'll be bringing you live proceedings also, and also bringing you some of the stand coverages that we are getting from the Agriculture and Commercial Show here on Camnet TV, not just another channel. And also in terms of news, a lot of activities are happening in the show grounds, and our team is also covering various events that are taking place at that important national event. So this is where I have to excuse the screen, but remember to just keep it on Camnet TV for the rest of the programming.
This year, at the 95th Agriculture and Commercial Show, Camnet TV will be carrying out stand coverages for those exhibiting at this important national event. The show will take place from the 2nd to the 7th of August 2023 and will run under the theme Inclusive Economic Transformation. Partner with us and reach out to show goers by booking space for live interviews and stand coverages by engaging our marketing department on 0961 404493 or 0966 811428. To make sure that we do not leave anyone behind, we have flexible rates for small and medium enterprises. To our dear viewers, those of you that won't make it to the showgrounds, we will bring the show to you. Camnet TV, not just another channel.
And just to appreciate Mr. Kawana representing the government for taking interest so that we could go around to check the status of Chipata City urban and township roads. So as I said earlier that we have over 41 kilometers of previously bituminous roads in Chipata that were lastly done 15 years ago by former President Rupiapan. And for 15 years, they have since been worn out completely. About a stretch of over 41 kilometers in the city is extremely unmotorable. And these were roads that were properly done. They were bituminous and they were passable and they raised the value of the city. So now, from where we are, the roads have been worn out completely. They are now unmotorable. And we are calling upon the central government to really consider supporting us.
But now that your President Hakainde Hichilema, has managed to go and convince the people that we owe money to give us a chance in order for us to rediscover or reconfigure our economy and have a bit of resources, we are now able to pump those resources into some of the things like capital projects such as roads. So I am a bearer of that good news from the Minister of Infrastructure that the roads will be done.
Yeah!
Just to, to implore government that the climate change bill, I think it's time that it should be taken to Parliament for debate and the enactment, because once it is enacted, then it will become law. Currently, as we speak, Zambia doesn't have, a legal framework that should govern climate change issues. We have policies, yes, climate change policy, we have environment policies, we have, but a policy in itself is not enough. We need an act of parliament, we need law to be established. So we are behind schedule, and we expect that very soon that should be taken to Parliament, so that issues of climate change are dealt with, beyond what is happening right now. And also the media have got a huge role to play in these issues of creating awareness on issues of climate change and the environmental sustainability. So climate change has now become, the issues of human rights now in these issues of climate change. There's what we call climate justice. So even legal bodies out there should take these issues of climate change with serious concern, because issues of climate justice is something that which we are advocating for, to say climate justice should begin to be respected, so that those people that are affected are able to be helped, to start a new life, in this case.
Inviting you to come through and just come and have an understanding of what these tax incentives are all about. So what are we talking about? Remember, most of the businesses were hit with COVID disruption. So a lot of business were affected, and also not only that, there were no sales that were made in that period. So government, and through the Ministry of Finance and ZRA, did introduce what we call a tax amnesty. So tax amnesty, this was one of the incentives that we gave out to our dear taxpayers out there, for them to get some form of relief So we were waiving penalties that were on people's accounts, and also just allowing you to pay the principal amount, and that will be it. So we are also excited to say about 14,000 applications were made in this period, and we are happy to see that these were processed and actually revenue was collected. The other incentive that is interesting for our viewers is that of rental income. If you know and remember very well that before 2023, rental income was charged at 10%. Not anymore. We have reduced it. It's now at 4%. So it's 4% of what you collect as a landlord. And previously it was the landlord, the tenant, who was supposed to collect that rental tax. Now it has moved to the landlord. So landlords, you are only supposed to collect 4% of the amount that you are getting. But on top of that, government has also reduced the rental amount you are supposed to pay. So if you are receiving rent with 1,000 every month, it means in essence you're not supposed to pay any tax. Okay, so those are the incentives that we are talking about. So any amount that is below 12,000 per annum will be taxed at 0. Then the rest is what we tax at 4%. So those are the incentives that we're talking about. The other incentive is for small businesses. These are businesses that are registered under Canada tax. Okay, so again, income tax is for businesses that are registered for